everybody. Today's going to be a little different. I'm going to be doing something in Blender. I'm just going to be going over some top tips that that are pretty useful, and I keep telling people. I just want to say that I'm not the best at Blender. If you don't understand how to use Blender, definitely don't watch me. Go out there and watch a different video. But these are some of the things that I use almost every time I model something for Unturned. The first one would be resizing. So if you're new to modeling, one of the most common mistakes is resizing your object in object mode. And you can see that by doing this, it sets the scale here. And this can cause issues if you export it into Unity, because typically when you export it into Unity, you'll set your scale to either 1 or 100. And if you have really weird values here, it's going to make things really difficult in Unity. Now, if you were to do simply, scale it inside of edit mode, you can see the scale hasn't changed. But one way that you can fix this is by hitting Control A and then applying scale, and that resets your scale back to 1. So Control A, and then you can do scale. The second tip is face orientation. Now this is more towards preparing your model for export. So when you're done modeling, you're going to come up here to this 2 little circles, show overlays in the top right. You're going to click this drop down, and then you're going to go all the way down to face orientation. You're going to select that, and it's going to turn your model blue or red. Blue is good. That means when you export it into Unity, the faces are going to show up. Red is bad. That means your faces are inversed and they won't show up in Unity. The easy way to do this is click your object, go into edit mode. You can select the object and then Shift N, and that will reset your faces. You can do Shift N on this guy, and that just does this one, or you can hit L to select this cube and then Shift N. Sometimes, like for example, if I were to select this, and let's say this was red, and if I hit Shift N, it wouldn't reset. If we, down here in the bottom left, recalculate normals, we click this, and then we click this little inside box, it will reverse those. So if I were to do Shift N, there we go. Shift N, and then recalculate normals, and hit inside, and then this would be invisible, and you'd be able to see through it. So the next tip is something that will greatly improve the quality of your model. Normally, when you're modeling low poly stuff, for example, unturned content, you will normally do a low poly count, like this shotgun shell. This is an 8 poly, or an 8 face shotgun shell, or I'm sorry, it's an 8 face cylinder. And this does not look very good. It is very sharp, and if you were to put this in game, it would not look very good. And even the shotgun has this feature. So we're going to click the object, right click, shade auto smooth. We're going to hit shade auto smooth. Now, depending on the model and what you've done to it, it will either automatically update or it will not do anything at all. In this case, it has not done anything at all. It still looks exactly the same. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of face orientation mode by deselecting the check mark. There we go. If we were to come to the right of our screen, go into our little toolbox, as I like to call it, if we were to come all the way down to the green triangle, and we were to select that, you'll be pretty much presented with this screen. You want to scroll down until you find normals here, and then click the little arrow, and then shade auto smooth. You can see that it's already selected here. That's good. You want to make sure that it's selected. If it doesn't, then it'll look something like this, and that doesn't really look good either. So let's go ahead and let's reselect that. This little slider here is where all the magic happens. So if we were to slide this up, you'll see that the higher we go, the model will change. So right around 60, it changes. And that looks really good, in my opinion. For most stuff, you'll either want to do 40 or 50. But when you're doing a low poly cylinder, you typically have to go higher. And another example is if we do our shotgun. So you can see the shotgun is very low poly, and it's very ugly. This looks terrible. We're going to shade auto smooth, and if we were to deselect that, this is what it would look like. Again, this is almost even worse. So let's go ahead and let's apply our normals, or our shade auto smooth. There we go. So you can see that some stuff has changed, but not most. So now we just gotta slide our little thing up, and you can see that it is changing our model. And we want to keep going, until the barrel is good. We want to keep going. Let's just type in 61%, and there we go. So now this whole shotgun is nice and smooth, and that looks really good. So if you're somebody like me who works in solid mode almost religiously, this is going to be really handy. So the base Blender view is kind of dull. If this was a more complex model, you probably would have a hard time seeing the edges and where all your faces are. So we're going to apply some settings to make this really pop and stand out and make it easier for us to see where the edges are. So we're going to come up to the right, top right, and we're going to see these little circles with different shading. We want to make sure that we are inside of the solid mode. This will only work in the solid mode, but you will still be able to see your textures. So if I go to material mode, you will still be able to see your textures. So solid mode, and then next to these circles, we're going to hit this little drop down, and you're going to see this viewport shading tool. We're going to come down all the way down to options, and we're going to click cavity. And you can see that it is updated, and this looks almost 100 times better. You can see the edges more clearly. It is more defined than it was before. But we're not done. Not done. And then we're going to go back to the arrow and back to viewport shading. We're going to click this little box next to shadow. And that's going to add shadows to your shade, to your solid mode. And I normally just leave it at 50% if you want something a little darker, a little lighter. But I think honestly, 5 is where it's at. So now you're like this is incredibly defined. It's easy to understand and see where your edges are. But we're not done, because this mode has more options available to us. For the most part, if you want a solid color, no textures whatsoever, you want to leave it on material. If we're going to change it to random, it will change it to different colors based on the objects you have. So if I were to, and this is basically the same exact thing as solid mode, but it adds solid colors to each object, which makes it a little bit easier to see what objects you have, because each object you deselect will have a unique color to it. But again, there's still more. We're not done. Going back to the drop down, we can click texture, and this will show us our texture here, but within our solid mode view. So we're still in solid mode, but we can see our textures. Hello, this is kind of post-editing me. I just want to say that this video is kind of terrible, but it gets the point across. I would say I'm not very good at Blender. And there's a lot of things I probably could have worded correctly in this video, but it still is understandable. You just have to follow along my mouse and just do the things I do, and you'll have the same effect. If you would like to see more Blender videos, if you would like to see animations, if you would like to see more Unity videos, just go ahead and leave a comment below in this video and I'll get to it. That's all I have to say. One more thing is, with the last tip, the cavity settings, the auto thing, that works in every single window. You just have to reapply it when you change windows. So if you like this, leave a like and a comment on what you want to see next, and eventually I'll get around to making a video for it.